Paul Goodloe McIntire. And he's a man that I've been acquainted with historically for several years. And you're going to see why in just a second.
Hello, my name is Paul Goodloe McIntire. Perhaps you've heard my name associated with some of my gifts to the community. Not all my gifts bear my name, but they do bear my legacy. I was born here in May of 1860. My father was George Malcolm McIntire. He was a druggist. He was the mayor of Charlottesville during the Civil War. My mother was Catherine Clark, from the same family that produced George Rogers Clark of Revolutionary War fame, and William Clark of the Lewis and Clark expedition. So I'm related to the Clark brothers, but not a direct descendant. In the spring of 1865, my father and a delegation of leading citizens from Charlottesville went out to meet the arriving Union forces of General Philip Sheridan, whose army was marching to occupy the city. The purpose of this delegation was an attempt to persuade General Sheridan not to let to happen to Charlottesville what had occurred to so many southern cities during this terrible conflict that had much looting, burning, and destruction. And they were successful. General Sheridan agreed to spare the city. And the occupation, for the most part, was orderly and peaceful. There was some minor looting, but for the most part it was orderly. I remember it was as a young boy of 5 during the occupation when I met my first Yankee. I was playing in my backyard, and coming down this muddy road toward my house was this contingent of Union cavalry. Well, having been raised in the South, particularly during this conflict, you can imagine these strong feelings we had about those damn Yankees. So as these soldiers were approaching, I commenced to thrashing my little fist at them in defiance. You can imagine what an amusing sight this was to these soldiers, this little 5-year-old boy thrashing his little fist. So they came alongside, dismounted, and made friendly talk. They gave me a piece of hardtack. That's some kind of a biscuit that hard as a rock would last for years. Typically the soldiers would have to soak it in some kind of liquid in order to eat it. The soldiers would maybe dip it in their morning coffee. In my case, some maple syrup did the trick. So I was very proud of my little gift of hardtack. I rather liked these Yankee fellows. They weren't such a bad lot after all. I met some more of them the next day. They were going around house to house searching for provisions and firearms. Provisions for their own forces, but also to prevent extra provisions from getting out to the army of General Lee, who at that time was stationed in Petersburg. So a group of soldiers came around to our house, and they were met by my older sister, Lizzie, who talked to the Union captain, and she said, oh no, we don't have anything here, nothing extra to spare here. Well, I knew that wasn't right. So I went over to the Union captain and said, oh no, we have several hams hanging in the attic. You can imagine how that went over with my older sister, Lizzie, who quickly moved to correct the situation. Oh no, he's just a little boy telling a fib. We don't have anything here. Nothing extra to spare here. So I don't know what the Union captain thought about all this. He smiled and left us alone. My older sister, on the other hand, presented me straight away to my mother for what she expected to be a severe switching for this treasonous act. But I said, Mother, I was only telling the truth. You've always raised me to tell the truth. She said, yes. When you speak to a Yankee, tell the truth with discretion. I didn't quite know what that meant then, but I eventually figured it out.